Hey, I'm gonna make this 3 minutes. Uh,
What?
just heard that Showtime has decided they're gonna bow out from boxing following HBO's steps. This was a reported rumor for a little over 3 weeks ago, and Steven Espinoza was asked to chime in on this particular hearsay at the moment. He didn't comment. He couldn't really comment too much on it. Usually, when someone's in a bit of denial, that does pretty much indicate that that the rumor is definitely true. So it's official. They are exiting out of the sport of boxing as of effective 2024, which is obviously 2 or 3 months from now. And so it is sad to see Showtime go. You know, they've have 37 years of history when it comes to sport of boxing. The sport of boxing, we've witnessed many great fights over those decades. I mean, the history that both HBO and Showtime has shared together is really something that cannot go unnoticed. And am I too surprised about this move, given the fact that Showtime had merged with Paramount TV or Paramount Studios? No, I'm not, because over the years, you know, boxing fans have been really had shown, particularly in the United States, have shown contempt towards certain fights that are being overvalued. And what I mean by that, fights are, we're kind of like subjected to fights that we really don't want to see, but yet we kind of deal with it. We kind of go through the motions, and the reason being is because we hope that some of these, these primetime fighters or these commercialized fighters who get their act together and start putting on shows that that fans are looking forward to and willing to pay to see. But yet, time and time again, we're being let down. Now, I know some people are going to blame Floyd Mayweather for the beginning, the end of boxing on Showtime. No, he doesn't deserve blame for that. And the reason why I say that is because, look, Floyd, though I've never been his biggest fan, or one of his biggest fans. I've criticized him throughout the years, but the one thing I do have to say about Floyd Mayweather is that he actually worked hard to actually get into the position that he did before the De La Hoya fight. The man went through 4 different weight classes to do what he did. He already had Hall of Fame wins prior to or mainstream wins prior to the De La Hoya fight. He worked his ass off to get to that position. So it is sad to me, and it's laughable to see that many fighters who idolize Floyd Mayweather for what he done decided they want to take the same route, but not to that extent. They rather hold out, fight easy touch-up fights, and then they can say, you know what, I'll take on certain fights that's gonna make me a lot of money, but less resistance. So that's what the sport has become, is particularly here in the United States, and to see that Terence Crawford and Ryan Garcia chimed in on this kind of nullifies my point, I should say, because Terence Crawford he's kind of alluded to the fact that we need to come together as a sport to make this great. It's just sad to see Showtime go out the way they are. It's just it's the stepping stone towards that change of direction that boxing desperately needs. So uh, yeah, like I said, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. It was pretty expected where Showtime is going to exit out, given the fact the rumor was reported 3 weeks ago. I'm not surprised about it. Now, the biggest question is, where does PBC go from here? Because now you have a big pool of fighters that are out of a TV broadcaster. Now, the rumor is that was spoken about is that PBCs are currently in negotiation with Amazon Prime, or Amazon, as you say, altogether. So, should the deal go through, how would the transition be for their fighters to fight on that platform? Because given the fact that you have fighters that are currently in the process of fighting on other networks as we speak, so we'll see how the transition plays out. But if that deal should come to fruition, it does kind of leave. Excuse me. Should that I apologize for that, guys. So yeah, should the deal come in place with Amazon Prime, it is kind of a bit of a contradiction for the, for all the fanatics on the PBC side of things, because their biggest gripe or their biggest argument against the Zone, and yes, the Zone did have has his share of criticisms from me, the way they had rolled out their platform on their fighters and whatnot, is that I don't fight on the app. I like to fight where there's more visibility. Yes, Showtime did offer that because it's available to more homes than the Zone. But yet, if they go on Amazon Prime, then yeah, what does that tell you? Contradiction right there. They're fighting on the app should that deal come to fruition. But to be fair, Amazon has a way larger footprint as far as reaching homes across the world, more so than Zone. They do. That's a fact. They're available everywhere compared to the Zone. Should that deal come into fruition? So now, yeah, the visibility part will still be there for those. It'll be there for those fighters. But as far as fighting on the app, that is a contradiction on their end. Should that happen? So yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that. Going back to the memories of the fights I've seen over on Showtime over the years, I mean, arguably, Showtime has more memories than HBO. I mean, they equally have great boxing memories. The history is there. I'll be going back to like, excuse me, I had to sneeze there. Yeah, going back to the days of Vander Holyfield when he fought on that platform. He's fought guys like, before the Mike Tyson fight. We all know that. Those two Mike Tyson fights back in 96, 1996 and 1997. I'm talking about back in like the late 80s. We had Vander Holyfield when he fought Michael Dokes. That was one of the best fights of the year at the time. Then after that, you had Holyfield versus Douglas. Even though that fight only lasted, what, 2, 3 rounds, I believe. Then you had Holyfield versus not Holyfield. I'm sorry, Holyfield went to HBO right after the Douglas fight, whatnot. But Mike Tyson when he fought Razor Ruddock. Then you had Terry Norris when he fought. He had so many great fights there, including his memorable fight against Sugar Ray Leonard. Even though that fight wasn't really competitive, but it was a fight where he pretty much effectively ended Sugar Ray Leonard's career. Yes, he came back for Leonard. That is, he did come back for one fight against Hector Bacho Camacho, but at the same time, that was more of a payday because he needed the money. But needless to say, Terry Norris is the one that effectively get credit for ending Sugar Ray Leonard's career. But anyway, Terry Norris had some great fights there on that platform against Simon Brown, whatnot. Then you had the Gerald McClellan fights against Julian Jackson. Of course, the more infamous fight against Nigel Benn. And speaking of Nigel Benn, we had seen the Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank rematch that took place on Showtime many years ago. Yes, I was old enough to remember because I watched that fight. Very good fight. If you ask me, Nigel Benn should have gotten a decision, but it is what it is. Uh, what else I was going to say? I mean, then, yeah, going to 96, 97 with the Tyson versus Holyfield fights. Then you had Michael Moore versus Evander Holyfield, the rematch. Then you had, obviously, the crossovers with the Showtime HBO with the Tyson versus Lennox Lewis fights. Then you had Felix Trinidad, who fought on Showtime for a bit, whatnot. But obviously, his fights he had was against David Reed. But obviously, that's a fight that people don't really talk about. It was a very good fight, but that was a fight that kind of effectively ended David Reed's career. But needless to say, though, Showtime had many great fights. Takasa Zoo, his fights were featured on there. Of course, the one with Ricky Hatton. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Showtime has a rich history of when it comes to putting up great, memorable fights. I mean, Jimmy Lennon Jr., who got his first big break as an announcer on Showtime because of his voice and the fact that Showtime was able to give him a platform. He's a Hall of Fame announcer due to his contribution to the sport. You know, so, James Toney fought on there. Oh, yeah, by the way, the Super Six, one of the greatest boxing tournaments that's ever been assembled in the history of the sport of boxing. The Super Six, which is featured the greatest one of the great super middleweights of that time. Carl Froch, Andre Ward, Miguel Kessler, Glenn Johnson, even though he wasn't really, he did move up between the weights between 160, 165, 175 at the time. He fought in that tournament. I mean, you had, other contenders like Jermaine Taylor. I mean, yeah, Jermaine Taylor at the time. Alan Green. But yeah, anyhow, Showtime. Oh man, I could just go on and on and on. Hey, what's up, Texan? What's up, YG? And Lucas says the show's not over until the fat lady sings. Yeah, that's true, but unfortunately, that show will come to the end at the end of the year. So they still are rolling out fights that's currently scheduled. So obviously, they have to go ahead and push that through. They have to get through that, and then as the year comes to an end, no more boxing on Showtime. So yeah, I mean, Texas says that Terence. He says that I don't think it's a bad move to go to Prime, but whatever platform they need to, they go. It does need to get a better catalog for boxing. So I barely was able to watch the last fight and had to do a little dual subscription. Yeah, the Tim Tszyu fight against Brian Mendoza pretty much was the last regular programming fight that was featured on Showtime. So uh, yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they go. But if the rumors do come to fruition, it more likely will be going on Prime. But if they go to the Zone, I wouldn't be surprised about that, and I think that'd be also be a very good move as well. But then speaking of the Zone, how long will they stay in boxing? Because the only thing that's making them money on that front is the Misfits, the social media circuit. And I have to give the credit what credit is due. That actually was a smart investment by the Zone to do that, even though that did come into criticism. So yeah, I just going back to Ryan Garcia and Terence Crawford's tweet and their take on Showtime exiting out. I think they're correct because I think the fighters need to get together and they need to clean their acts up and stop holding out for big fights. They need to stop doing that. Seriously, I just think that for the sport to survive, particularly in America, they need to give us fights that we want to see as fans. They got to stop holding out. They got to stop being afraid of losing their undefeated records. Who gives a damn if you lose or not? The fact is, what makes you a great fighter is by taking on risks. Taking on risks. Not saying don't take on unnecessary risks, but taking on risks. Take on fights that we fans are willing to pay to see. So I think again, my point is that these fighters, when Al Heyman rolled out the PBC brand, yes, I was a supporter of it, but at the same time, I also criticize the fact that he overpaid his fighters for taking on less risky fights, and I think this what got Showtime and the PBC in the position they are right now, which is not pretty good. So, if they are going to sign on to the deal with Amazon Prime, obviously one of the reinsurances is that they have to produce quality fights, premium level fights. That's what they're going to have to do. So, yeah, PBC makes it real difficult to look up their replays, especially since they come out on YouTube 1 year later. Yeah, they have. So I just think that yeah, if they are going to go on to a new network, a new broadcaster, which would be like more likely it'll be Amazon Prime, but if it's not, then it could be the Zone. If it's not the Zone, then who else? But whoever it is, they're going to have to really, really, really tell their fighters that hey, you got to take on these riskier fights if you want to get paid, because that's how it was back in the day. Again, I've been watching boxing for 4 decades. I'm telling you out as it is. What made the sport so great is watching the fights that we wanted to see. The best fight the best. No more holdouts. Not saying holdouts will not happen. Were happening back then. Yeah, there were a couple holdouts here and there, but it wasn't that prevalent as it is now. Because everyone is trying to play the Floyd Mayweather playbook. But they got it all wrong. Floyd Mayweather took on tough fights, even though there were some fights that we wanted to see him take on when he was Pretty Boy Floyd. But he did take on some fights that we wanted him seeing. He did that. But yet these people are misconstruing it, these fighters that is, as if, oh no, Floyd only took on less riskier fights. That's how he got to the position that he is. So I want to do that. No. He didn't necessarily do that in his entire career. He took on some tough fights. Believe it or not, he did that. He did that. But these guys are just they just got the playbook wrong. And that's their fault. So yeah. The homies, I ain't paying pay-per-view money to watch this. I'm going to stream for free. The homies when Showtime canceled boxing. I mean, look, man. I mean, at this some point, sometime, this wasn't going to hold up forever for Showtime and the PBC. It wasn't going to hold up. So it'd be interesting to see. There'll be a lot of eyeballs that'll be monitoring the situation closely, and when they will find a home, but again, it'll be interesting to see where they land. So, yeah. So now, as of now, as we speak, the Zone, along with Top Rank and ESPN, are the only ones left standing when it comes to the sport of boxing in the United States. Now, there is a rumor that went around a few months back, and it has died down so far, is that ESPN will not renew Top Rank's contract. So that will be interesting to watch. And I know Eddie Hearn was the one that put that out. So that would be interesting to see if that comes to fruition, because if that does come to fruition, boy, boxing in America is going to be in a very dire situation if that happens. Now, again, it depends if Top Rank could find a home if that does come to fruition. So I'll definitely be keeping a close eye out on that. So um, yeah, that's all I have to say about this, guys. I mean, it wasn't gonna, like I said, I was gonna be on here. I said 3 minutes, but I've gone way beyond that. So now we're at 15 minutes or close to 16 now. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut this down. I just want to give my thoughts on it. Other than that, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. Other than that, I'm out. Peace.